In the Watchdog section of the Chicago Sun-Times, they like to investigate, and they're looking into the things that really happen and the tax cheats that destroy our country, that leave everyone else to foot the bill. In this particular article, they focused in on Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, Senator Duckworth of Illinois, and her potential tax scheming and cheating that goes on. And Fox News also piggybacked on the story because why not take a good chance to take a shot at someone who sacrificed nearly everything for the country. So let's go straight into the things that the Chicago Sun-Times was reporting in the Watchdog section. They start off by saying no one likes to pay property taxes. This year, the owners of 27,288 homes across Cook County don't have to. Their property tax bills, $0. The pay-nothing bills result from a host of property tax exemptions the Illinois General Assembly has given homeowners over the years. The biggest tax breaks go to homeowners 65 and older and disabled veterans. Among the homeowners whose property taxes are entirely wiped off the books because they are disabled, veterans are U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, former Alderman James Balser, and some veterans who are now Chicago police officers, is what Chicago Sun-Times analysis had found. So let's look at this headline they had, because I just want to point out how this was proposed, how this was put forward. So if you're listening, the Watchdogs then have a headline that says, "You pay more in property taxes because 27,288 Cook County homeowners pay nothing." And there's a picture of Tammy Duckworth, and it mentions how she's a disabled veteran, and she doesn't pay anything, because it seems, if I saw that, I'd go, man, she's cheating the tax system. So they continue on. "What we have done is to create all special sorts of categories: veterans, disabled people, senior citizens," says Lawrence Nsall. He's the president of the Civic Federation. It's a Chicago tax watchdog group. He said, "All of those exemptions administered by the county basically undermine the integrity of the property tax system. We grant people relief regardless of their income situation, and the rest of the community has to pay more," is what he said. "It's unfair. It's very hard to monitor, and it's hard to authenticate who's getting the value. Is it the needy people, or is it a large giveaway?" Now, because of that thought, the Watchdogs continue to go into the background of Tammy Duckworth and her husband. So really fast, Duckworth, who's 53, gets a salary of $174,000 a year as a senator. This is again from the Chicago Sun-Times. First qualified for the tax exemption while she was serving in the U.S. House of Representatives. She uses a wheelchair after losing both legs when she was shot down in Iraq in 2004 while piloting a helicopter for the Illinois Army National Guard. She was awarded a Purple Heart. Her husband, Brian Bowlesby, who also served in the National Guard, retiring with the rank of major, works for a cybersecurity company. So the background is talking about how much money they make. They've got a house here, they got a house in Virginia, here being Illinois, a house in Virginia because she's a senator. But they don't pay taxes on the ones here. They go into details of how much she would have been paying and how much over the years, how much it is. And then to ask people at the end, how much do you pay? Look up this point, you can see if your neighbors pay. So there's a lot of digging and details for you to get the appropriate information that you need to find out just how much Tammy Duckworth is screwing you over and making you pay her home ownership bills. All that went into this, but not much was mentioned about how this is a part of the policy. This is a policy that we give to members of the military who've sacrificed life in some cases, and then so their families deal with this. And another aspect of this is family members, after a veteran passes away, they still have a certain level of protections, or not even protections, but tax benefits because they were married to a war veteran who sacrificed for the country. It had a huge negative tone. And before we get to the Fox News part, I just want to hear what you think about these first details.
Yeah, leaving out that she lost both of her legs and a part of her arm is leaving out a pretty important fact. When this loophole, so-called loophole, is to help veterans who've lost life and limb. And that's exactly what's happened here. Now, you can disagree and say we shouldn't do that for veterans. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's an interesting argument, mm-hmm. right? But if you make it seem like she's cheating, well, that's definitely not true. She's applying for something she has definitely earned and exists in law for everybody. Now, to me, there's all the difference in the world between, let's take the Koch brothers, we can take many wealthy political donors that say, okay, I want a loophole created because I don't want to pay my taxes. Okay, so Here in finance, there's a carried interest loophole. I'm making money from basically from my salary and from my earnings, and normally I'd be taxed at the top rate there. But I want you to create a loophole for hedge fund managers, so we can pretend that it was investment money, even though it's not our investment money. Just make it up, and that's exactly what they did. Create a loophole for the richest people in the country that is totally unfair, and we'll use it to rob people of billions of dollars, maybe even trillions, right? That's a loophole. This is, hey, you lost both your legs serving the military, so we decided to give you something back. Like, by the way, like the GI Bill, you remember that? They go to World War II, they come back, and they got a bunch of things like, hey, you can get a free education, you can get a loan for your house. That's very similar to this. You might not like either one of them. You might like one and not the other, but you can't say that they're the same. And here they have clearly implied that the Senator Duckworth taking advantage of a tax loophole not to pay any tax on her house. So to say that it might be framed with some degree of bias would be a significant understatement.
They made it very personal. That's the thing. And by the way, again, like you said, you can have the thought, I don't want war veterans to have any benefits on their taxes on their housing. You can have that argument, but you know what? You're not going to be on a winning side of an argument. You're not going to look very American. You're not going to look like you support the troops, as we all very proudly talk about doing in the country because of the sacrifice they make. So there's usually a benefit for the sacrifice because there's bravery involved in risking your life to, quote unquote, in many cases, and in some cases not, but protect others. I'm just gonna go with the lines that we use. I'm not gonna get into this part about my editorial on that. But that's why if you're at the airport and you're waiting for your plane to take off and they go, any military personnel, they board first, right after the little cheering, and then they get on the plane. And if someone stands up and goes, how dare that Army general decide to get on the plane before me? Because he's gonna wear his uniform just to get on the plane before me. Everyone around you will go, boo, get out of here.
Let alone if that veteran is missing her legs and can barely use one of her arms. And as she's being wheeled to the, not even the front of the line, after the children, right? If people are like, oh, boo, whoa, you get special privileges, they would seem like massive jerks, unless you work at Fox News.
It's crazy, so there's that angle. So they may have known how this, Fox News are mentioning, may have known how this may look for their viewers. And I also looked into the comment section to see this because I want to see how they responded to it. But let's first go to the tweet that Fox News had about this story, which they were just basically re-reporting what the Chicago Sun-Times was doing, and it did throughout the whole article. So this tweet from Fox News says, Democrat Tammy Duckworth hasn't paid a property tax on her Illinois home since 2015, report says. And then it links to a Fox News article that as I said, it regurgitates many of the things that was reported in the Chicago Sun-Times. So, again, look at the way that's framed. Democrat Duckworth hasn't paid property tax, which sounds like she just has been paying it since 2015 because she's like, whatever, bro, I'm a senator, come get me. Which oddly is what their favorite president would do.
Oh, totally, that's exactly what Trump
exactly what he would say.
In fact, he did do that. He avoided taxes to the tune of the IRS says $100 million. Fox News is like, now if you're gonna steal, you steal like that, okay? Oh, well, you lost a couple of limbs and now you want a $40,000 tax break over many years. Well, okay, that's unacceptable.
And I think you mentioned it last hour, maybe it was earlier on, how there's a way that things are written to make sure that the reader, or whoever's watching or reading your information, sees or doesn't see certain things or highlight certain instances. The things that were highlighted was how bad this is, and it's Tammy Duckworth doing it, and can you believe it? You're the one that's getting the foot up. So it's that framing that allows people to get mad, maybe at Tammy Duckworth, but not at the system and what is, because if you get mad at the system, you're gonna say, well, why are you against veterans? That's the problem. So anyway, some people who did dodge taxes were exposed by a ProPublica article earlier this year, and they leaked IRS data about all these multi-billionaires, in some cases, how they skirt taxes and pay nothing. Do you remember the response Fox News had? Because I looked it up. I said, I wonder how Fox News reported on this. Let's look at that graphic of the headline Fox News had. Twitter allows sharing a ProPublica article on leaked IRS data after blocking New York Post's Biden story.
Oh.
And the secondary title here said, ProPublica received a trove of billionaires' tax data from an anonymous source. So Fox News' response to that story from ProPublica, the same way they had a response, or at least a reporting about this story from Chicago Sun-Times, was, can you believe that Twitter's gonna allow ProPublica and other users to show this detailed information about billionaires' tax info? About what? About them skirting taxes, about them paying nothing in taxes while you foot the bill. None of that was said in this article. It was talking about how they blocked things that were said about Hunter Biden's laptop, but they didn't block things that were said about billionaires who are skirting taxes. I wonder where their loyalties lie, and I wonder who they're trying to protect and who they're not trying to protect in these particular situations.
That's brilliant, Jay. I had not thought of that story. And those two headlines tell you all you need to know about how media lies to you through the framing. So one side doesn't say, oh, veteran lost both legs, gets tiny tax loophole. It says, Democrat Tammy Duckworth hasn't paid property taxes since 2015, okay? The other headline, where billionaires are avoiding millions upon millions, collectively billions in taxes, is like, can you believe that Twitter is sharing that information with you guys so you can get angry at the poor billionaires who are robbing all of you blind? Can you believe Twitter? It's Twitter's fault for sharing that goddamn good piece of investigative journalism by ProPublica. The poor billionaires, how are they ever gonna recover, right?
Yep.
It's all in the framing. That's how they lie to you.
They pointed out, this is again the Fox article, the senator and her husband also own a 6-bedroom, $1.3 million home in Virginia, where they were billed more than $16,000 in property taxes, which they paid because they don't live in Virginia. So again, it talks about her second home. It talks about how much money they make, and which was in the hundreds of thousands and things like that. Again, billionaires. And they were like, why aren't we protecting them? I can't believe that they allowed their information to get out. Now, if you're gonna pose like you're worried about people that are rich, which Tammy Duckworth apparently and her husband are, and you want them to pay their fair share of taxes, okay. And you maybe don't want them to have this tax break. Why don't you have that same energy for multi-billionaires who pay even less?
Yeah, I mean, look, these are the same guys who are like, oh, Tammy Duckworth's house, Bernie Sanders' house, my nephew's house. Okay, and then they turn around like, look at Trump at Mar-a-Lago and all his other estates, which he then takes campaign money and pretends to pay rent to. That's your money that he's robbing you blind with. And then has Secret Service stay and then charges the government robbing you blind with. No, they're like, Mar-a-Lago, what a bravo, Trump. Bravo, right? Look at all these estates. Son of a, look at this Tammy Duckworth. Just because she's missing a couple of legs for a senseless war we sent her to in Iraq, she's gonna take a tax deduction out. Oh, God, accept it. How do you guys not see that they're monsters? By the way, one last thing. Fox News says, support the troops, give over $700 billion to Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, etc. Support the troops and give a tiny tax break to a veteran who lost 2.5 limbs? Boo, don't support the troops. How do you not see that they're monsters? Unless you yourself are that kind of monster, in which case you're like, attaboy.
So as they talk about the partisan nature of the country and how split and divided we are, and then blame it on whatever Democratic president is in at the time, these are the kind of stories that actually are out there. And they would say they have no part in that divide. This is absolutely part of the divide. It's why so many people are gearing up thinking they're gonna take over the country with their rifles in their backyards.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.